Hey there, and welcome to Go Far Girl, the podcast where women share the stories that changed them one journey at a time. I'm your host, Chantelle. I'm a travel writer and a lifelong wanderer, and I believe that every mile we travel brings us closer to the strongest, boldest, most authentic versions of ourselves. Each week, I'll sit down with incredible women to talk about the trips that shaped them, the lessons they learned along the way, and the power of going far in every sense of the word. So grab your coffee, your journal, or your carry-on, and let's dive in. Hey, welcome to Go Far Girl. I am going to finish my story that I started last week for you guys. If you haven't heard part 1 of why I'm obsessed with travel, you can go back and listen to it. This will be part 2 and the final part. So just do the same as before. There's trigger warning, talk a little bit about domestic violence and abuse. So trigger warning. Okay. So where we left off last week was that my ex-husband had been threatening my family and me. And so I decided to move out of state to get him away from everyone I loved and to keep them safe. By doing that, I lost everybody I ever knew. So we moved up to Washington State, where I didn't know anybody. He had people here that he knew. He grew up here. His mother was here. He had a girlfriend. He had a job, and I didn't. I was still a hygienist. My license, I had to take a test to transfer. That took some time to do. And he just wanted me to be at home anyways. He didn't want me to work at that time. So I went through a really, really dark depression. I was very isolated. I didn't, like I said, know anybody. He really made it so I couldn't have friends here. The boys immediately started school and sports and things like that. But anytime I would try to talk to any of the parents, he would become jealous and mad. He would cause little scenes and fights. I think he just really didn't want anyone to like me and didn't want me to feel comfortable talking to anybody or having any friends. So I was really, really by myself. My mom and stepdad came up to visit us, and he caused a big fight and said that, he was going to call the cops to have them kicked out of the house. Like, it was over just nothing. Like, he was just really going out of his way to make sure that I was alone. My little sister was getting married, and I couldn't go. And I know that to this day, she's still mad at me about that. And it really hurt me that I couldn't be there. But he just made it to where, like, the punishment of going just wasn't going to be worth. I just couldn't do it. And I was scared to leave my kids at home with him while I did that. I didn't know what I'd come back to if they'd be gone. Because he always said he was just going to take them and go. And so I just was really missing out on a lot of family time. And I just can't say it more. I was just really dark. I just wanted to die every single day. We would fight. He would drag me down the hallway by my hair and, don't you cry. You're going to wake up the boys and you're going to ruin their lives if they see you like this. And he threw me outside, like, in a tank top and my underwear. And I had to sleep outside underneath my car because he was mad about, like, I don't know, some tone I had or the look I had on my face, or the kids' football coach maybe, like, said hi to me or something, or it was just never ending. There was always something that was my fault and something I was doing wrong. He accused me of having an affair with everybody, and I mean everybody. I was allegedly having an affair with the kids' teachers and the kids' coaches and the Mormon missionaries who were 19 years old, and the neighbors, just you name it, anyone that existed in the world, I was betraying him with. So it was pretty terrible. Um, we didn't have any money. I couldn't figure out why. Um, I know now he was only giving us like a quarter to a half of what he was earning, and he was keeping the rest in a secret account for himself, so that he would always have money. But we didn't have money, so we had just I could never make the bills work, and then it was my fault, and I was stupid, and I was bad with money because I didn't have enough to pay the bills, but we just didn't have enough. Like, he didn't give me enough, and he wouldn't let me work, and, he just controlled absolutely every aspect of our lives. Um, I wanted to die. I wanted to die every single day. Um, One day, my little sister Jamie called or text, I don't know. Anyway, she said, "Hey, there's this place called Moab." She was living in Utah in Provo, and she had said, "There's this place called Moab, and I really want to go hiking there. You and the boys should come with me for their spring break, and we should go hike." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds amazing." Um, and he liked Jamie. He like that was one of my family members that he liked. So I was like, "Oh, this might work out." So I said, "Hey, Jamie wants me to go hiking with her." And he was like, "No, we're not going to do that because you're not just going to like take my kids and run away and, go be with your boyfriend or whatever." And I was like, "Well, it's Jamie and, we should go." And he said no. And then the boys kept asking him. And so one day he was just like, "You know what? You should go with your sister to Utah." And I was like, "Really? Why?" And he said, "Well, you're so stupid. You're just going to die out there anyways. And that's just going to make my job easier because then I don't have to worry about how to get rid of you. You'll just go out there and die. And you're so stupid. There's just no way you can do it. Um, and don't be calling me for help when you get out there and you don't know what to do and all this." And so I was like, "All right." Packed up the kids and I drove 16 hours straight to Provo. We stopped at little roadside things. We stopped at some waterfalls in some areas. So we got to Provo, picked up my sister, drove down to Moab, and we were hiking. And I remember telling her, I remember this so distinctly. I was having little panic attacks the whole time we were hiking. Um, and I was just like, "Oh, my heart's beating really fast. Like, I don't feel very good. I kind of feel like I'm going to pass out." And I remember her going like, "Oh, do you need to eat something? Is your blood sugar low?" And I know now I was just having panic attacks because I was just so scared to be on my own and to have the boys out there. But the boys were just laughing and having a good time, and Jamie and I were having a good time. And I remember as I turned the corner and saw Delicate Arch and the boys kind of took off running, I thought, "Oh, I didn't die. Like, I did this. This was hard, but I did this." And it was in that moment that I really just started like kind of distrusting some of the things he said because I realized that I could do things. I realized that I planned this trip, and I realized that I had the boys out there and that we were all having a really good time, and that without the stress of him always looming over us, everyone was being themselves and laughing and joking and having a good time. The boys weren't fighting with each other. They weren't fighting with me. Um, I hadn't cried in days, which was crazy. Um, and I wasn't stressed out. And as the longer we were out there hiking and the longer we were gone, the less panic attacks I was having and the less stressed out I was being. And so it kind of was this big turning point for me to where I started to like not believe everything that he said. Started to believe that I wasn't maybe as crazy as he thought I was. I wasn't maybe as weak as he thought I was. And I wasn't as stupid as he thought I was. And so I just remember the whole trip just thinking, little things, and so then when I came back from that, um, and he would say things, of course they still hurt, and of course it was still bad, but I just started to see things a little bit differently. I was like, "Oh, maybe that's not true." And I started being a tiny bit more defiant, which didn't pay off always. But if he would say, "Well, you're not going to do this," and I would say, "Well, probably I'm going to do it," because I knew I could. So I went and got my hygiene license again, and I did go back to work. Um, and he tried to get that taken away from me. He would like call in to the state of Washington and file like complaints against me, and they would have to come and investigate. He really just tried to get my hygiene license taken away. He tried to undermine everything I did at every turn, everything that started to be successful, everything that started to make me feel like I could be by myself. He would just take away. Um, and the abuse got worse and worse and worse, to where I would just lay in bed and hope that one of us would die soon. I would, you know, hope it would be me so that I didn't have to deal with this anymore. Um, and I just kind of went inside myself again for a while, but I was just trying to work this out because I was like, well, he's saying I'm stupid. He's saying I'm not capable, but I know I can do these things. And as I was able to talk to more people through work and realize that people maybe didn't hate me as much as he said everyone hated me, I was able to realize that people enjoyed talking to me sometimes and I had things to offer and that I was smart and that I could help other people. They'd come into the office with problems and I was empathetic to them and I could help them. If they were nervous, I was helping them set at ease, things like that. So I just started to see better parts of myself. And I just really would, listen to people talk about their vacations and their travel plans. And I just wanted that. I just went back to that time where I was a kid and I felt trapped in my house. And I just was so tired of feeling trapped. And I just really wanted to go somewhere. And I just really wanted to go anywhere. And I even tried planning trips with him just so I could go and get out. And of course, those trips would always turn into disaster because we would fight and I would do something that annoyed him. And he would just threaten to like kill me. Like we were in New Orleans and he threatened to throw my body in the Mississippi River. Or we'd be watching, he like always wanted to watch these crime shows and he would tell me how that person was stupid and how they messed up and how he wouldn't mess up and all the ways that he could do it better than them and that he was going to like order this poison from this frog in South America on the black market through his people that he knew, and he was going to inject me in this little mole I have on my face or between my two toes, because no one would ever think to look there, and that's how I would die. Or he was just going to like make me overdose on pills, and then it was just like I committed suicide because everyone knew I was crazy anyways, so it wouldn't be bad. Um, so it's just always this fear of him killing me or taking the boys. And so this went on for another, oh gosh, I think we lived up here for 3 or 4 years. And I was just at my lowest point. And it might have been about the second year in when I got to go to Moab with Jamie. And then for the next couple of years, I just kind of focused on building myself up and becoming stronger and making more outside connections. And the boys were making friends. And it just kind of felt like I was getting stronger and stronger. And the stronger I would get, the more he would try to hurt me. The more he would keep me down. And I remember one morning, he hurt me so bad um, that I just laid in bed all day and cried. And I couldn't hardly move. I was just so broken. And I just laid in bed and cried. And I thought, I've got to get out of here. And then that night, when the kids came home from school, my oldest walked in the house and I can't even tell you what he said to me, but I can rehear the tone he said it in. And it was just this tone of disrespect and this tone of that I was stupid. And I thought, oh, he thinks that's how you can talk to women. He thinks that's appropriate behavior. And I told him, hey, watch your brothers. I got to run downtown real quick. And I went to the courthouse and I got court papers. I had already opened divorce papers in California before, but the time had run out and nothing had been done with them. And now we were in Washington, so I had to start all over. But I just, in that moment, it wasn't even about me. It was about not letting the boys think that that was okay, not letting the boys, um, think that that's how they could treat people. And I was going to set an example one way or another. And I went and got the court papers, and I told him he had to get out, and he told me he was going to kill me. He told me that he would never leave me alone until I was dead or homeless alone on the streets where I deserved to be. And I didn't care. I was so done. I just dug in and I said, "We're done. I'm not doing this. Get out of my house." He broke into the house. He stole absolutely everything of value. I didn't have any money. He took all the money, had the electricity turned off. I didn't have any food. He kept trying to get my hygiene license taken away. He would just follow us everywhere. He would cause scenes at the kids' basketball games and football games and start yelling at me and calling me fat and telling the boys their clothes didn't smell good and that I wasn't taking good care of them and embarrassing them in front of their friends. It was just a spiral of just this onslaught attack of him, just trying to destroy me at every turn, at every turn. And he would, tell me how I'd gotten fat or how my lipstick made me look like a whore or how my clothes were gross or how I was disgusting and I was ruining the boy's life. And just one thing after another. It was just constant. He was just so mean and so nasty and so angry. Um, all while fighting for the kids. He wanted, full custody of the kids because he didn't want to pay child support is what it boiled down to. Telling the court that I was unstable, that I had thrown knives at the kids, that I had broken into his house. Really, all these things, everything that he used to say, I realized was stuff that he was doing or had thought about doing. That's how I got to learn his patterns. And I always knew what to expect because he would blame me for something. And it was what he was doing, whether it was, having a girlfriend or breaking into the house or things like that. So the court battle was very ugly, very, very ugly. He just tried to make things ugly at every turn. I ended up by spending over $70,000 in attorney fees, and it taking a couple of years to finally get divorced from him. I didn't know who to talk to about it. Nobody really knew kind of the backstory, so then it didn't look, convincing, I guess. He made everyone believe him. One day we were in the parking lot of my son's basketball game, and he swerved at me while I was walking, and he clipped me with the corner of his Jeep. And so I told the cops, I said, he tried to hit me with his car, and he said he didn't. And the cops, always believed him. I remember telling my grandparents about that he hit me with the car because I needed money for an attorney fee. So I'd asked my grandma to help me with some money because I needed to keep the boys. And she reached out to my dad and my stepmom to help me. And they got furious with me and said that I was just acting like a victim and acting ridiculous and not to ask my grandparents for any more money. My stepmom said that I should just let him have the boys because he'd get sick of it eventually and give them back. And it was just easier than fighting. And that if he had meant to kill me by hitting me with his car, I'd be dead. Like that it was probably just my imagination. And I was being dramatic and I was just a victim. And so I just felt like every time I tried to turn to someone for help, it blew up in my face. And so I just got really used to just being quiet and dealing with it on my own. And just not talking to people about it because I was sick of not being heard. I was sick of not being taken seriously. And I kept thinking, well, when he really kills me, then maybe they'll believe me. So I just really started to just focus all my effort on the kids and just throw everything I had into keeping them safe and healthy. Started planning little trips for us. I would work 6 days a week to save up money. And my oldest son was going to finally get ready to graduate from high school by this point. And so I wanted to take them on a vacation. I had to fight in court to get the boys' passports to go on the trip. He told the judge that I was going to kidnap the kids and run away to Canada if I had a passport, if they had passports. And the judge said, "Oh, does she have family in Canada?" And he said, "No." And he goes, "Oh, does she have friends in Canada?" And he said, "No." He goes, "Oh, has she ever been to Canada?" He goes, "I don't know." And the judge goes, "Well, why would she take the boys and run to Canada then?" He goes, "I don't know. She's just crazy like that." So it took me an extra $6,000 in court fees just to get the boys' passports so we could go. But I took them on a cruise. We visited 4 different countries in 5 days. The boys had a great time. I had a great time. And with that trip, it was another kind of thing where, hey, I could go because I was free to do it, and I could plan a good trip and we could have a good time together. Nobody fought. Everyone had a great time. We just had these great experiences, and I started taking them to little places instead of birthdays and vacations, or birthdays and Christmas. We'd go on vacations instead. And with every trip I took, I just gained a little bit more confidence and I gained a little bit more power back. And I also kind of just felt like a little bit of like an F you to him, right? Because, oh, you'll never be anything without me. You're never going to be able to do anything. You're just going to be homeless on the streets and dead, and you can't manage money and you can't plan things and you can't take care of things. But I could, and I was, and kind of just became this mission to me to go as many places as I could, because not only was I proving to him that I could do things, I was proving to myself I could do things. I was proving to the boys that I could be a fully functional, well established adult, and do things and give them experiences that they didn't get to have when they were younger. Um, and it just became so freeing. And also, when I was traveling, when I was gone, nobody knew me. Nobody knew this poor Chantelle's story. Nobody knew him. I didn't have to worry about what they had heard or what they had thought or what he was going to do. He wasn't going to show up and start calling me fat and screaming at me if I was, in Scotland. He wasn't going to like show up at the restaurant and make fun of me for eating pasta in Rome, because he wasn't there. And so I could really just be this more authentic version of myself and be free and not worry about running into him or anyone that knew him. And I think that's where like the allure of that travel came in. One day I was taking my son back to school, to the airport so he could go back to college. And he said, "Hey, you got to start doing more stuff that makes you happy. You've done a good job of taking care of us, but we don't need that anymore. You need to take care of yourself." And had a really good cry because I realized that I didn't know what made me happy. And I knew it wasn't hygiene, but I didn't know what it was. And my neck was hurting all the time, and my head was hurting all the time, and I was miserable, and I was making good money, but I was just unhappy. And so I kind of just started working on doing more of the things that made me happy. I started writing about my travels. I had my travel blog. I finished up and got my travel agent license and started helping other people plan trips and being excited for them and through them by doing the research and watching their trips come off without a hitch. And that just made me feel even better because I was helping them, but I was also proving to myself that I could plan a good trip and I could do these things, and that people respected me enough to listen and to have me do these things. But it's not always easy, and I still carry a lot of those scars with me. And when my family and friends plan vacations and don't ask me to plan them for them, I go back to, oh, those old thoughts that he's put in my head that, oh, see, they don't really like you. You're not good enough. Or when they go on vacation without me, um, I still fall back into those old patterns. And as hard as I try, I still feel like I have a lot of that self-doubt still in me. Um, but when I'm out, when I'm traveling, I don't have any of those things. I can just be this strong, independent, fun person. Um, and none of that stuff bothers me when I'm away. And so it's almost like a drug to me to be away. I can't get enough of it. I just feel like I can be myself out there, no matter what I'm doing. And now I've just really used it to develop this life that I love, where I am happily married with a husband who supports me fully, where I say, "Hey, I just got invited to, 3 trips this next month. I'm only going to be home for like 5 days of the month." And he's like, "I'm so happy for you. That sounds amazing. And I know you're going to have so much fun." And then when I'm on these trips, I can send pictures of myself doing silly things, or, maybe there's someone else in the picture with me and he doesn't question me, or he's like, "Oh, you met new friends. That's amazing. And what's everyone do? And where's everyone from?" And it's just really refreshing to not be second guessed at every turn, and to just be able to go out and authentically have a good time and share those experiences with him. And that when we do get to travel together, he's fun too, and he wants to do the things, and he's not second guessing me, and he's putting his trust in me, and he believes that, I'll do things the correct way. My boys are all happy and healthy and have good, solid relationships, and treat women appropriately and can hold down jobs and are selfless and empathetic, and they're just such good men. And I know that none of that came from him, and they don't have a relationship with him, and he did that. And I do have a relationship with them. My boys call me just to tell me about their day or to tell me about something they've seen or done. They text me things they think I will like or that I'll think are funny. We just have this solid relationship, to where I know that that time I put in was worth it. I know that the sacrifices I made was worth it. And now I travel full time, and I help other people travel, and I get to go to amazing places and meet amazing people, and I have experiences this month. It's not the end of the month, and I've been, oh my gosh, I don't even know where I've been. I've been in Arkansas taking a hot spring tour and going through a bathhouse in the same way that they did 100 years ago, and eating at places and hiking and avoiding tornado warnings and crystal mining in this mountain. And then I've been in Scottsdale, Arizona on horseback looking at Gila monsters in the desert and riding a horse through saguaro cactuses that are in bloom and staying at the Four Seasons and having massage treatments and eating at 5-star restaurants and doing aerial yoga and climbing to the top of a telephone pole and walking across it and um, going on a pontoon boat in Wisconsin and visiting a cheese factory. And tomorrow I'm leaving for Canada, and we're going glacier walking and hiking and e-bike riding through Banff National Park and taking the gondola in Jasper. And that's just 1 month. And, I used to be this person who couldn't get out of bed without getting chastised. And now I just travel, and it's so fulfilling. And I've met so many wonderful people and had so many amazing experiences that I feel like I'm living a full life. I feel like I'm making up for that last time. I feel like now, when it's my time to go, I'll go with a full heart and know that I experienced life and that it wasn't all torture and misery. And I think that's the point of this podcast, is that we all have our own journeys. Not everyone has to go through all of the torment that I did. Not everyone, gets thrown down the stairs by their hair in the middle of the night. And I lost a baby that way, and I don't talk about that. But it haunts me. It haunts me every single day. But not everybody has those sorts of traumas, but everybody does have their own thing, and everybody has their own feelings of insecurities or their own feelings of, I can't do this. This isn't for me. Everybody feels lonely at times. Everyone feels like they've given up their whole selves to raise their family or to go to their career or to take care of their sick parents or whatever it is. And every woman needs that outlet, and every woman needs to know that they're not alone. I think that had I felt I was not alone for so long, maybe I could have got out earlier. If I felt like maybe someone else understood or could hear me, maybe I could have got out earlier. And that's why I host Trip for Women. That's why I get women to travel with me, to get out of their bubble, to see that there's more, to have even just a weekend of bonding with other people. You don't know what those connections are going to lead to, and you don't know how that can affect someone's life. And so I just encourage you to take those hard steps. And even if you're scared, to do the thing, because you're never going to regret trying something, and it may not work. And you may not, you realize maybe I don't like flying long distance. I don't like going to Europe, but I can go to that town next to me for a weekend, or I can go on a road trip. And I do like that. But just getting out there and talking and sharing your story with other people, even if your story is just, these kids are driving me crazy today. Like, I haven't taken a shower in 3 days because I've been cleaning up vomit, and I haven't said an adult word in 2 weeks because all I do is watch Bluey and whatever it is. Just by talking, someone else is going to be like, oh my gosh, I know, right? Like, I'm going crazy too. And then there's a conversation, and then you both feel better because you're not alone and you're connected. And whether you do that through travel or through social media or wherever, I think just getting out there and speaking up, letting people know that they're not alone, makes you feel not alone. And when you can share your experiences and your stories, um, it just brings everyone closer together. And that's what I aim to do with this podcast. It's really the only reason I told you this whole big backstory is just so you see where I'm coming from. And when I have these other women on, maybe you don't know them. So you're like, oh, I don't need to listen to that episode because I don't know them. But they might say something that resonates with you. They might say something that they've gone through that makes you feel seen and heard. Or they might just change your perspective on something that you never even thought about changing your perspective on. And I think that that makes the world feel a little smaller, a little more intimate, and less scary. And so I encourage you to put yourself out there, get just a tiny bit outside of your comfort zone. And if you want help, I'll help you. And if you want to go somewhere, I'll go with you. Like, you don't have to be completely alone. You don't have to take on the world alone. Um, we're all in this together. And I think that's special. And I think it's important to know. And so thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys all for being here. And I can't wait to see you next week. All right. Take care.